All right, so I decided to add like the braid setup in the lessons as well. So think of this as a bonus chapter. Now, I'm not going to recreate the whole thing. I'll just explain the math behind it and just show you the setup, because it's slightly complicated, and uh, yeah, I don't feel like doing the math all over again, but it's not like too complex. Anyways, the file will be there, so you can always take a look at it. And as I had said in the previous video, you should definitely download the shape curves asset, because that makes life a lot easier if you're going to do braids and stuff. I mean, you can do this, you'll have to do the math, but I mean, it's nice to know the math. But yeah, if you have like a ready-made asset, it just makes life simpler. Okay, so how I learned this was essentially there is a Modo tutorial from a channel called Pixel Fondue, which I believe was started by Brad Peebler, who was at one point of time like the lead guy in at Modo. And this is a tutorial by William Vaughan, who used to be like a big Lightwave user, like a guru at Lightwave, and now uses Modo. Anyway, so he does these 1 minute tutorials, which are fantastic. So I saw this one, and the way it works is
The smooth S curve.
in order to set up the braid shape, the shape is very specific. So in the front view, you do like an S
In the
shape,
front viewport, create an
and in the
infinity
top
symbol,
view,
moving
you do
verbs
an
2 and 6
infinity
down
symbol.
and 4 and 8.
Okay, and once you've done that, then you kind of duplicate it to form like a full line. Like instead of just one, you like duplicate it. And then you make 3 copies or 2 copies. So 3 in total, which will give you like, you offset it to the exact height that you want. And then when you do that, you'll get a basic braid. And so I looked at it and I went, okay, like I initially just blindly tried it out and it worked. And then I kind of said, okay, like this is essentially basic trigonometry, right? Like if you want an S, this is a sine function. And if you want an infinity, then this can be done using a cos function. So what you'll end up doing is you'll do sine of radians, because you need to convert the point numbers to radians. And then this will be at pt num. And then here we'll do cos of radians at pt num. And the cos is usually double the value of the sine. So this is usually like multiplied by 2 in order for it to form like this exact shape. And then in order to do the 3 curves, what I realized was that you would have to offset the sine value. Okay, so once you make your first one, in order for you to get like the second one, you just sort of do a plus over here. And so for each one, we just do an addition. Okay, and then eventually you'll get, so the first curve, let's say, is like this. And then the second curve, we'll offset the value, like do a plus something. And then for the third one, again, we'll do a plus something. So the way it works is that the second, whatever values you put in for the second one, you multiply it by 2 for the third one. Okay, this is roughly how it works, or this is exactly how it works. The only thing is that I kind of roughed it out, so I don't have exact numbers for you. I just have the generalized values. Okay, so if you look at the setup here, now this is the basic setup. This is not useful, like, because this is a straight line, and you don't want to do a straight line. Usually, braids will be more complex, but you can also use it to do like ornamental stuff. Okay, so this also applies to my the ornamental training. Okay, so if I start off from the beginning, like if you look at this, see, so if I look at it from the front view, see, I have the S shape. Actually, no, it's not even a cos. They both are sine. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, so the first one is, so the x-axis, like you can see, it's x-axis. So x-axis you have sine, Okay, and this is multiplied by like 45, and then the z-axis also has a sign. Now what you're seeing here is you have these move values. Okay, so this is like they both need to be moved by a certain value. Okay, this is not important for the first one, but for the second and the third you will have to move them. Okay, and then I'm multiplying them to get the thickness and the width of the braid. Okay, so there's nothing here. Okay, like if I just look at this and I come in here, see this is 0 and this is 0. So the I, where is, sorry, is that the I? Yeah, see this is into, so this was 45, okay, and this is multiplied by 2, so this is 90. Okay, like if you look at it from the top, so this has to be 90, otherwise it doesn't work. See, so this is 45, if I make this 90, I get the exact shape that I want. Okay, like if I make this 60, let's try this. If I make this 60, okay, see, so the top doesn't work anymore. If I make that 120, see, there you go. Now you're back to having the infinity shape again. So the z-axis function has to be multiplied by 2 of whatever you are multiplying the x-axis function by. So 45 was good, right? So it's a very weird looking curve, like it, but this is what you have to do. Anyway, so then you have the second curve, and so the second curve, like the way I worked it out was I just did a straight up copy. So you do a copy transform and just take like 3 copies and just translate it up till you get the shape. Okay, see, there you go. Like we can try to do a polywire on this and see if we're getting the shape that we want, because that's important. You'll need to do a polywire. Like let's just do Control C, Control V. Actually, let's duplicate this guy. So Control C, Control V, and yeah, you're getting a braid. But the beginning and the end is the problem, right? The middle section is fine, but the beginning and the end is the problem. But what you do is, once you have this, okay, you can keep this in the front, and I did a second copy, and then you just offset the values till you get what you want. Okay, like I take this, I keep this in reference, and you have to move this till it matches the second curve. Like this is now currently matching the third curve. We want to match like this guy. So we keep moving it till we come to the second curve. There you go. So that's about, we can try 250. I think 250 should be okay. Yeah, okay, this is fine. And then you come to the top view and you do the same thing. You keep moving it till it becomes an infinity symbol. And yeah, 140 is good. And then for the third one, whatever values you have here, you can just duplicate them. Okay, so this is 500 and that's 280. It's as simple as that. So when you look at it, you get, now the problem is this is fine for a straight line. Okay, what most people do in other softwares is once you build a straight line, you put it through like a lattice deformer or like a bend and taper, and then you just sort of, give it the shape that you want. But since we are in Houdini, we can push this a little further. So this is the final asset that is there. So this is, I copied some curves on it. So it's a little heavy, takes a little bit of time to open up. Usually you won't do a hair generate on it at all. What you can do is you just copy additional, scatter a lot of points on it and attach it to the back of the head like a ponytail. See, so this is, like what I've done is through a for each, I am just extruding, like I took a circle, I scattered a whole bunch of points on it. So I have about 700 points, and then I'm just copying it onto the curve, like what we did with the ponytail, except I'm not taking a hair generate at all. So when you do an add, it just generates this. And then when that happens for all of them, you get your final result. See it very simply, it's this. Right, so this has a few additional, controls in here. So this isn't like, it's not overly complex. So I generated like, usually I do it with colors because it's easy to visualize that way. Okay, let me just turn this on. So what I have to start off with is the basic shape of the braid. Okay, like how the braid will flow. And then in order for it to sort of flow on that, you have to use a polyframe. So the same thing we had done before. So you take, the style will be kept to first edge, and then the tangent name is N, the bi-tangent name is up. And then I generated like to control three things. Okay, I need to control the width and the height, so the thickness and the width of the braid. And then lastly, I need to control the frequency, so the number of curves. And each one of those is multiplied by a simple ramp. Okay, so I can control, like if I want the ponytail to become smaller towards the bottom and all of those things, then I can just do that. So what I do is, instead of, like I don't need this. So I just took a single add and then copied it onto this, and the, the sign and cost stuff that I was doing, I put that in the translate. So you're doing the same thing. Okay, like I am the X translate is using a cos of, point number into frequency, and you'll see like the sign is using the point number frequency into 2. Okay, so I have like at frequency somewhere in here. See, so I have like frequency and thickness and size. Okay, so I have like those three. And then that further on gets multiplied by the size for the x-axis and the thickness for the y-axis. And in order to offset the curve later on, okay, I'm generating like 2 additional values. So in there I had just manually typed in, but now what I can do is I can take this copy swap and further put it into another copy swap and do the offset there for every copy. Okay, so I take those two. This is again, okay, the point is this is, if you are a beginner, I'm very sure most of this goes over your head. So this is relatively intermediate to slightly advanced level. So yeah, so if you're a beginner, just use the asset straight up. You can put in whatever curve you want, it will work without any problems. Okay, so yeah, so I'm doing like, I generated 2 channels, and then I made like, from the rendering, from the parameter interface, I created 2 parameters, like 2 float values, M and N, and I'm just using those here. Okay, so when I make the additional copies of it, I can offset them using these values. Okay, so this you can see like they both are being brought into copy 3. Okay, like I'm just doing a stamp function and bringing those into copy 3. Okay, so what you're seeing here is then I can like do an add and do a resample to get it to be smooth. Let me just turn off, yeah. Okay, so what you're getting is, if I look at the basic controls, is I have the basic width of it. So each curve, each ramp that I'm using, I'm multiplying it with a static value. Okay, so the M gives me, the thickness, and the N gives me, the width. And along with that, I'm multiplying it with a, I'm multiplying it with a ramp. So I can define like, how thick or how thin it should be. And then lastly, I also have like, frequency. So if I like how many repeats I want on this, say, if I don't want the braid to have too many repeats, and I can control, like if I remove this altogether, like if I want the whole thing to be like braided like that, I can do that. And if I don't want the beginnings to have a braid, I can just, lower that. So I'm sort of like controlling the frequency. And so that forms my first curve. And then the second curve, as I said, like you basically just offset the whole thing. Like let me just bring it in here, so it's easier to see it. Yeah. Okay, I gave it way too much thickness. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is good. You could probably generate a 4th value for the thickness of the polywire. Like I'm not using, I'm using the red color itself right now, which is why it's getting thinner as it goes down. But yeah, so what I've done is, like, once you come in here is I'm using the M and N and I'm adding it to, the point number. So whatever is, so I'm adding it to the copy number. So each copy number takes that value and, multiplies it by 2. So you can see, like, here, so these values have to be guessed out. Okay. Like if you don't have these values properly, like what you do is you just keep moving this value till you get to the right shape that you want. Like at one point it will work. You'll go like, oh yeah, there you go. That's the shape that I want. I'm very sure you can see how many point numbers you have and then base it on that, and you'll know the exact math behind it. I wasn't too keen on doing that much work. So I just sort of, I just did like a rough guesswork that, okay, like keep moving the value till you get what you want. Like if you don't do this, see, this is what is offsetting it. So M offsets it, this way, like vertically, and then N offset it, or N will offset it, So both of these are required. Like this, you don't need to do anything here. You just define your number of copies. So first copy and second copy, and you're done. It only works for, like, I think maybe if we reduce the number of curves, we could probably, yeah, you could make it work with as many. Just, you have to just adjust the values till you are happy. Yeah, there you go. So this is with 5 curves. Like once you're happy, once you get the basic shape, you can define number of copies and just adjust like the M value. Okay. As I said, the N is always multiplied by 2. And then, so basically what we're doing is like N is multiplied by 2, and then every copy number, just offsets that. So the first copy is 0, so nothing happens. The second copy takes like these 2 values, and the third copy will further, multiply. So 0 will be nothing, 1 will be these values, and 2, you're just multiplying this by 2. So this will become, like if this is 70, let's keep it at 70. Yeah. So this is 70 and 140. The second copy becomes 140 and 280, that way. But yeah, there you go. I never thought it would work for more than 3, but it works. And then here you can just, like, if you don't want, your curves to be, see, there you go. So I can define, I can lower the frequency. Yeah, this is fine. See, like if I don't want anything in the beginning, so I can just take this value to 0. See, just make sure you keep everything to B-spline. Otherwise you get like this really sharp, you get like a very, very sharp cut in there. That doesn't look nice. So just, keep everything to B-spline and it works. Yeah, there you go. See, that's smoother. And you can try to do the same thing here. Like if I take this and then move it slightly down, see, there you go. So you can open it up. If you move it down too much, it looks weird. Anyway, so that's a 5 braided, curve. Or that's like a 5 curve braid. Sorry, I said it the other way around. But yeah, this is basically it. This is how you can go about, setting up braids. So if you want to attach them to like a Viking mustache or, hair or anything at all like that, you can try this. But as I said, like also get the OTL, the digital asset that's available. That has a lot more functionality than this. That has like inbuilt jitter and, a whole bunch of things. He really did a very good job with it. So you can use that as well. This is, as I said, like it's good for understanding the math behind things. And as I said, it's also good for ornamental work. So if you want to do decorations on pillars and, crowns or thrones or anything like that, then this helps over there as well. Okay, so that's basically it. So this is the braid tool. I hope I was good enough at explaining this. The only difference between doing it straight and doing it on a curve is that you need a polyframe. Okay, and then you just, whatever sine function you were doing within the wrangle shop, you do that in the x and y. Okay, so we do like cos of point number multiplied by the frequency, and then further multiplied by a value to offset the second and the third curve. And then on the outside, sorry, further like added, not multiplied. And then on the outside, you multiply it with whatever value that controls the thickness, of, or the overall thickness of the braid. And then you bring all of it into a second copy swap, and you just specify the offset values for the second and the third curve. That's roughly it. Like, that's the basic way to understand it. Which is why I showed like the other file first, because that explains it very simply. It's just like, it's broken up, so it's much more easier to understand. Anyway, so this is it. So I hope the training was useful. I hope this was useful. If you use it in a particular hairstyle, do send me a render or something. I would like to see that. And if you have any questions regarding this training, or if you have any questions in general about Houdini, you can message me on Twitter or Instagram. I don't know what other social media I'm on. I'm on ArtStation as well. I don't know. I guess you could message me there as well. Or you can email me. And sometimes I don't answer back. I apologize for that. I get lazy. Usually I try to. I mean, I generally try to, but sometimes I just get lazy. Anyway, so apologies for that. And I'll try to answer to the best of my abilities. So once again, I hope this training was useful, and that's basically it.